Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack and Protection. Today I'm Bancroft for being joined once again by Jimmy and like always, Fluff.
Howdy.
What's up, people?
And today we have another amazing session of what we like to call the Great British Cook-Off. I know Bake Off. Bake Off. I almost butchered that entirely.
It's not like this like the third time we've done this.
It's the second time, but thank you. And with that being said, Jimmy, you are bringing a delicious turtle soup to our table. At least
Yes, sir.
I want to say turnip, but you kind of told me it was turtle, so I'm going to leave it alone. And Fluff has brought the black pudding. With that being said, guys, like, subscribe, all the other fun stuff. There's buttons, click them. But guys, take it away and go over your decks.
All right. So, as always, I let Fluff start off because it seems like every time I have a match on the channel now, it's against Fluff. So, Fluff, tell us about your Syn Shenron build, if you haven't told us about 15 times already with all the videos we've done with it.
I haven't been that many videos with it. I mean, it's so the spice of this deck is the Tree of Might. As you can see, it's already starts out on the field. This is the control build of Shenron, as counterintuitive to the aggro version of the deck, which the aggro version would probably not run the Syn Shenron line. This really focuses on trying to tutor out the 4, lock the leader down, utilize nature on Shenron's effect, utilize Omega Shenron's ability to absorb the effects of, say, Oceania Shenron or other Shenrons, and really just kind of control the field, keep the opponent as controlled as much as possible, use blockers to protect the life, try to awaken as fast as possible. I don't believe in using multiples of the Mecha Kabora. The Mecha Kabora is really good, but by turn 4, you don't want to be tapping 4 energy to play up a Unison.
Of course, yeah. And my build of Turles it's fairly bog standard for a Turles build. It is pretty much just straight gas the entire time. My only swings are Turleses, sometimes a Unison swing. I am trying to push as many double strikes through using fruit. So not really any spice throughout the list if you are familiar with Turles. So, which a lot of times charge becomes an issue because, I mean, you see right there, I charge a peanut and a raisin. That takes, a peanut and raisin proc out of the deck, so it leaves me with only 3. And the more I draw into, the worse off I am. And speaking of not seeing or being worse off, I forgot to proc my leader's front side auto, which is you can pick up a life, then search top 5, and add a Crusher Corp to hand. That set me back so far because that was at least one card was going to my hand for my life, and then a possibility of having another one from the deck, which could have been an absolute game changer, especially this early on if I could hit like the 3-drop Turles to even get a wider board on my turn 2. Missing that set me back so far.
Yeah, it can absolutely have long-standing effects on the game as far as your ability to create plays, defend yourself. I mean, there's just a multitude of different things that you could have got off of that effect.
Yeah.
And let it be a lesson learned. It might seem like forgetting one effect is not that bad or not that punishing, but sometimes it can make or break a game.
Like, that, in my head, that put me back an entire turn. Because that was 2 less cards I had in my hand, and most turns I'm at least plussing 2 in most cases. And that pretty much set me back an entire turn. Of course, I got a double strike attack through, I got a Beerus attack through, and I got my blocker on field. But there could have been so much more on that turn if I were just to hit that one card that I needed. which that top 5 could have gave me, or it could have gave me gas for later on in the game, or it could have gave me a dormant potential to help stagnate, or really anything. So
I kind of
was that
I kind of know going against you with Turles. My main goal here was to let you get one good swing through with the lead. I unfortunately on that first turn on your last turn, I sequenced incorrectly. I should have just let your unison deal damage, but I should have comboed the haze and then discarded to pop your Beerus during the Beerus swing, instead of having to combo out an extra card to get out of the Demigra attack. My general goal there was to let you hit me with a double strike, get your leader tapped, and then I could use the ability of the 4-drop Shenron that you just saw to keep your leader from swinging in the next turn. Of course, it gets to restand, and you did blow it up with the Frieza. I'm okay getting a Frieza out of the way at this point. The 4-drop, I'm not really too concerned with being able to board and establish the 9-drop yet.
Yeah, the 9-drop, I wanted you to do either one of two things. Not be able to put the 9-drop on field that turn, and pretty much leave an energy open so you wasted one energy on your turn. Or wasted, air quotes. You could have, used it as a negate or to pay for a combo. But I didn't want you putting the 9-drop on field because I can play through a Nimbus because I only need to swing once or twice in a turn to get my damage through.
Yeah.
But swinging through a Nimbus plus multiple blockers on field, which this deck can easily put a bunch of big body blockers, which Turles struggles to be able to deal with outside of like the Crusher Court Commando that can blow up on swing, but then again, multiple blockers, multiple negates. So I either wanted you to either not use the energy and leave it standing so you're not building a field, or tap another energy to put the 4-drop on field again, which would be pointless to do because my leader's already tapped and can't attack.
Yeah.
So that would get 2 4-drops out of the game for me.
Yeah, and I knew that, kind of in my last game against Austin, I said my strategy for dealing with King Piccolo was to keep the leader tapped and free from swinging as much as possible so he didn't get to advantage his free combos, and he would have to tap energy to play battle cards that he otherwise wouldn't have to. And that was kind of my thought here with you, is you get a ton of value. And a lot of decks right now, their leaders do a ton of the work. So I do know that you play other Turles, but now you're going to have to establish another Turles on the field if you really want to advantage the fruits.
Exactly. And also, we skipped over it. On the Tree of Might proc, on the beginning of your second turn, there was no fruit in the deck. And it turns out that the next 3 fruit were the next 3 cards of my life. So I was in a bad position because I wasn't able to thin out the deck, getting the fruits out of there, and then plussing with different cards from my life because I was getting the fruit that I would normally. So I was basically not plussing as much as I should be.
Yeah. This was one of the most that I've ever seen Turles brick.
Oh yeah.
And brick in the sense that just a lot of the things that give Turles value, you were not taking advantage of, or not that you weren't, but you just couldn't, because the fruit were in your life, so you were getting them off taking life instead of being able to search them out in the deck, and then the life could have been a more valuable card for you to play.
And partially it's my fault because I forgot to proc the auto. That could have completely changed the game completely early game. And but there's RNG when it comes to what cards are you laying in your life, and I just got horrible RNG that 3 fruits got into my life and they were stacked on top of each other. They were the next 3 life were all fruit.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all had that.
Yeah.
at some point or another where you just fall victim to terrible RNG. That just, by no fault of your own, it's almost like you're taken out of the game by the way that your deck decides to draw. And I think that just comes with the territory of playing TCGs.
And green has the ability to be extremely resilient and still play through a start as bad as mine. But you have to see those cards. Dormant Potential is the one I'm thinking of. I have one in hand at this point, and I can set on a Dormant. For, at this point, I could put Dormant on the field and say, "You cannot kill me this turn."
Yeah. And I knew, so another thing that I decided to advantage on your side of the field was the presence of your Demigod unit. I knew that you want to keep that Unison alive as much as possible, so I will use that Unison as access into your life points without giving you the ability to combo. So you will either lose the Unison or take markers down on the Unison, because really I was worried about you resolving that -3 effect, popping a field or popping a card and then being able to pop a 3 or lower. That actually is pretty punishing against Syn Shenron, especially once you let me waste the resources and investment into building up a field.
And that was something that was going through my head a lot in this match. Should I play the aggressive approach of getting as many attacks through as possible, or should I start trying to clear some cards off of the field? Because a majority of your Syn Shenrons give you some sort of value off of being removed. So it become the game of, do I risk giving you something that will help you win the game by just removing one single card? Because there's not a lot of 3 or less in your deck. At least in this matchup, you didn't really play any that was a big deterrent to me. But it was the blockers that I was trying to remove with Demigod.
Yeah, and I knew that the blockers were going to be fairly relevant, especially in later stages. But if I could just keep your leader tapped down, I didn't have to worry so much about the leader swing or being pressured by your nugget battle cards. Like, I'm just not as threatened by those. So,
Exactly.
I know if I can just establish my field, I'm going to put you in the position where you have to make the decision. Do I keep the comfort of having the Unison on the field, or do I give up that comfort and start transitioning into do I let him remove the Unison instead of having to take life? And I know that you're awakened now, you're ready to go. It's a little bit harder for me to get in, especially on my leader swings. I now officially have to combo to hit with the leader, which is another big negative about Shenron.
And also something I was thinking about in this match quite a bit is I knew you ran the Zamasu super combo in the list, and I was so scared of losing out on a Turles attack by you tapping it down.
Yeah.
And so I had to play a little funky around that, where I was having to get my double strike swings in first when I usually want to do those a little bit later on, because a 35 hump is a lot harder to combo over at any point in the game than a single 15k attack. So I'm giving you those cards. A Demigod swing is basically null and void after I hit you with a big double strike like that.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I kept in mind is I don't think I saw a ton of the Samas super combos here.
Yeah, after the match, you were like, I think you were like, I have one in hand, and there was one that I milled. And, and again, that's a RNG thing. You could have seen all of them in your hand and basically just shown them to me at the beginning of the match, and I would have scooped because there's nothing I could do about it.
Right, just one per turn.
Yeah.
Let you restand, swing, combo one, tap the leader, play a 4-drop.
Which in a lot of situations in most decks that are not Syn Shenron that can keep my leader from attacking, a Sama super combo is not that big of a deal because I only need to get one strike through to really like do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Preferably 1 to 2 every turn. But you tapping down my leader, I'm just like, okay, well, I'll expend my resources. I'm putting one of my other Turles out to swim with.
And a lot of people don't realize, too, and I've seen a lot of people do this against Syn Shenron, is their avoidance, their attempt to keep the 9-drop off the field enables me to more easily play a 4-drop.
Yeah.
So removing the 4-drop with the Frieza, yes, it makes me waste some energy, but it ultimately did what I wanted the card to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in this match, I don't feel like the 9-drop Shenron, outside of just being a big-bodied blocker, is all that relevant as far as stopping card effects.
Yeah.
Because most of your stuff is by on-play auto, so you're getting most of your value off of that as soon as you play the card. And then maybe I'm turning off some other small little effect, but you aren't one of those like activate main, inherent double strike, inherent crit, inherent dual attack. And that's just not your game in this deck.
Which I think that's one of the big strengths of Turles is that a matchup like this is not a very difficult hill to overcome. It's just the blockers that is the issue. Yeah. So now your entire deck is built on the denial of resources for your opponent in terms of skills, where my deck, I don't need those skills, so your denial is not affecting me.
Right. It's not. It's the nature on Shenron is much more beneficial to me than the Syn Shenron, and the Omega is much more beneficial to me than the Syn Shenron. But I will see people that will just break their neck getting a 4-drop off of the field to keep me off of the 9, but it just puts another 1-star ball on the field.
Exactly.
That lets me, for 1 energy, play another 4 from my deck. Now, if you have the ability to consistently remove a 4-drop every turn, and you're not terribly worried about not being able to swing with your leader, by all means, do that. But really, when you're playing against the Shenron player, you want to be removing the dragons when it matters.
And just unfortunately, at this point in the game, I did not have the resources to be able to both push and remove.
Yeah.
So I was having to make very suboptimal choices and just hope that I can squeeze through what I needed to do in every turn. And, not to harp back on the missing the auto proc on the front side, but that auto proc could have been the difference of the game.
It would have opened your hand. You would have had more cards to combo. You would have had more cards to just generally work with.
Yeah. And I ended up charging Cosmic Rogue there. I think it was me and you, we talked about that there could have been another line of play at this point where I try to push and put a Raisin on field and then hardcast my super combo to be able to play Cosmic Rogue for 2 energy.
Yes.
And then try to push through some extra damage on top of that. That's not the path that I choose, and it's hard to say if that would have been a better option than what I did go with. But that's probably like some food for thought if you're a Turles player if you're a Turles player and you're watching this, what would be your pathing to take at this point? And of course, you don't know every card that's in my hand, but you can see I charged the Cosmic Rogue, so that was already dead at this point. So I go for another path here, and I thought about bottom decking the Demigra Unison to put it up to 3 to start clearing some blockers. But I thought, what if I can just eke through enough 15k attacks? I have other Demigra Unisons in hand, so they're essentially just a 1-drop 15k swing. And that's what I was playing towards.
Really is not terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not an incorrect line by any stretch. I just think that, like, I feel very comfortable at where we're at this stage in the game. Like, this is really the point where Syn Shenron starts to shine.
Yeah.
And my thought is, if I can just get you to waste cards out of your hand. And so that's really what I'm just trying to get you to do. If I let you get a swing through, it's because I want you to combo heavy into it. So I can either take the little bit of life, but at the same time, I was scared of Champa. I know basically going down to 2 life against Turles opens the window for you to basically win at any point with little to no effort. Because all you have to do is successfully get one attack through with one of your Turles cards, whether it be a leader or battle card. And I'm not familiar enough with the Turles cards themselves, like Cosmic Rogue and the smaller Void, to know how cheaply they could play for and under what conditions. Like, I don't know that off the top of my head. And I don't know if you run a Champa. I assume not, considering you already run Kill Driver.
Yeah, I run the Crit Reset in this list. And I know there was the argument of running Champa in the list early on when the deck first started making waves. And I think after this match, I do agree that Champa is a better option. Due to being able to swing with the Daze or the Peanut or Raisin and then throw a double strike on there, you know, nobody's going to expect you to be attacking with a little weenie. And this was just insult to injury. You have 5 energy, I have 3 cards in hand, you just drop Cell X. Like, it's just a win the game card. And I really didn't have an option there. I knew you were going to negate the skills on the Overwhelm. I was just trying to get you to either put a blocker in rest mode or just let me through. And I had the super combo in hand that I was going to push on to try to draw into something else if I was going to be able to get that damage through.
It was just keeping everything kind of cleaned up and getting you to waste resources as I could, and resource denial when possible.
Mm-hmm.
Shenron is really tough because Shenron in a single deck now has multiple lines of play, and it's not as linear or predictable. So you disrupt the 9, it branches into other lines of play that are equally as disruptive and problematic in their own ways. And I think that's really the strength of what makes Syn Shenron so good right now, is how flexible the deck is without having to be a completely different.
Exactly.
So, with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. It looks like Black Pudding won this one out. Why Black? I mean, you know how disgusting that could be, right?
It's not about flavor. It's about infamy. And what is more infamy than the guy who almost choked on a Dragon Ball?
Fair enough. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Remember, there are buttons. If you want to click them, please do. Jimmy, got any last words?
I think I got food poisoning from Fluff's Black Pudding.
It happens. I will say real quick, someone mentioned one in the comments that, for old time's sake, does it burn when you pee?
Oh yeah. What how'd that one go? What is it? If it burns when you pee, it's probably the clap.
There you go. And Fluff, would you lead us out?
Yeah, if it burns when you pee, you got an STD from eating black pudding. Just saying, you're probably doing it wrong. Read your cards, know your place, and like always, Fluff out.